building for humans is what it's always been about. Having a human sort of connection and allowing a human to do what they want to do is the whole point of AI. Replacing a human in the loop of especially entertainment, what are you doing? Like, you're not
Yeah.
creating something for a human if you're doing that entire thing. Who are you building for? And so I think building in a bubble is the biggest problem because of the fact that it's hard to realize that you're not really building something that people want. You're building something that VCs want.
My guest today is Rishi Nair, CEO and co-founder of Diddo, a neo-backed startup making media shoppable by letting viewers buy what they see inside video without leaving the stream. Diddo raised a $2.8 million seed round and was selected to Comcast NBC Universal Sports Tech program, giving it a front row seat to how major media and sports platforms think about commerce. We'll go inward on how Diddo makes sense for brands and streamers, and then outward on the future of media and AI, from AI-generated content to autonomous agents to valuations and bubble risk. Rishi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Uh, First, I want to go into a little bit more about the origins of Ditto. Can you talk a little bit about why you started Ditto and essentially what it is for our audiences who don't know?
Yeah, of course. So high level, what we do here at Ditto is we make media and video instantly natively shoppable. We want to do what Stripe did for the static commerce world for the social and video commerce world. I think especially for a younger generation, we're seeing a pretty big trend shift from how people want to do commerce. I think that there was an emotional journey when you're doing or when you're purchasing an item in person. There was never really an emotional sort of purchase journey when it was online. You saw static images, you saw images that were very clinical almost for
Mm,
what a brand wanted to do as opposed to what an actual individual would want to see. Video completely changes that. When you see something on TikTok or you see something on your favorite show, you're seeing it live. You're seeing it in motion. You're seeing the emotions associated with it. And that is an emotional journey. And so I think when you're talking about a digital environment that's right for commerce, you're talking about obviously physical, and we've seen that be very successful, but we're also talking about a digital first world. And digital in this world means video, means an emotional sort of journey. And yeah, how we started this, I started this with my best friend, and we honestly solved this, or we started this for our moms. We're both only children, so our moms were calling us left, right, and center when Selling Sunset came out our senior year of college. And at some point, we were like, we don't know where Chriselle's shoes are from. So we built them a Google Chrome extension to figure that part out because we just didn't want to do that work anymore. And then realized that it wasn't just their problem. They loved it. We launched it to a pretty small group over in New York, and we saw that it was extremely successful. From there, we also learned that it couldn't exist as a Google Chrome extension. We were kind of living in that world of Netflix party during COVID and also the kind of legal gray area, and decided that it was a lot better for us to then go and make this a API play and go to these streaming companies and empower them to better connect to their audiences. At the end of the day, video and the stuff that they put on screen is culture, and we want to monetize culture.
yeah, and I think I remember when we have first talked, Succession was still all the hype and rage, and I just remember that I really wanted to dress up like Kendall Roy. I couldn't figure out exactly where to get all that stuff, so, Ditto came out at the best time. So, let's start with the why now, I guess, though. Platforms already have ads, brands already sell on social, so why do they need Ditto? Why would a brand connect with Ditto instead of just running another pre-roll or doubling down on TikTok Shop?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. I think it's something that we got since the beginning of the company is why do this, especially because it's not a new idea. Trying to shop what you see on TVs existed since before the internet's existed. QVC is a great example of a version of shoppable TV. A big part of it was that it was just there's a lot of moving pieces. It's a very convoluted background to make something that should be simple look and feel simple. We don't make you do a bunch of like the amount of clicks that it goes or that it takes for someone to purchase something from an Instagram store was a big reason that an Instagram store got shut down. They weren't
Mm,
connected to order management systems. Brands had to do a lot of work. When you say brands connecting to us, They don't. No brand has to connect to us. We work with order management systems exactly how they are. We're not making you port over your order management system. So what we do works from both the retail side as well as the media side. There's a ton of rights issues when it comes to the media side of the world, and having a sort of computer vision engine that's able to work with a media player given those rights issues has never existed before, just simply because the tech hasn't existed before. The why now is
Mm,
because we're at the right place at a right time. We got lucky. So having that capability of us having a computer vision system that can actually integrate within a media player in a way that makes sense for their rights issues, while also being able to integrate with an order management system and work with order management systems exactly how they are, leaving that entire purchase flow where when someone purchases something on a specific media, on a specific show, it shows up as a normal online purchase for whoever they purchased from. So when you're doing that, the retailer will see, okay, cool, this individual purchased from Santa Monica, California. Let me send it to them. And they're going about things as they normally would. So they don't have to change their business model. Retailers don't have to change their business model. Media players don't have to change their business model. Advertisers don't have to change their business model. We just want to act as just kind of the background plumbing that makes everyone's lives a whole lot easier and makes an issue that everyone thinks should be easy as easy as it's supposed to be thought about.
yeah, that's great. And so when you're pitching, is it about like incremental revenue, brand safe environments, closing attribution gap?
All of the above. I think when you look at this space, like we've already seen that media companies are starting to lag behind when it comes to ad spend. Obviously, YouTube and Meta and those social media companies of the world, TikTok included, they're they're killing it, and they're going to continue to kill it. And a lot of that comes down to being able to connect to the audience in a way that makes sense for the audience. The data understanding there is immense. When I'm watching something on TV right now, the actual connection and like making it make sense for me as opposed to making it make sense for you, having that sort of personalization on shows just doesn't exist right now, and showing me what is interesting to me doesn't exist right now. Whether it's sports or a show or anything like that, personalization is a huge part of it, and then also being able to kind of give them a third revenue stream. So you have your advertising revenue stream, you have your media rights and how much you pay for your media rights. What's that third revenue stream that continues to boost media, as media is just becoming increasingly more important today? We're seeing everything that's going on with Paramount. We're seeing what's going on with Warner Brothers now, inclusive in that entire environment. How do we make that all make sense? We're also seeing the ballooning rights or the ballooning prices of sports rights. Comcast is paying $2.45 billion a year for NBA rights for the next 11 years. That's a pretty hefty price tag. How do you make that make sense when consumers are getting a little bit tired of going between multiple different devices? Like if I have to go from, like in this case, it's between it's on ABC Sports, it's on NBC, and it's on Amazon Prime. That's Disney, Comcast, and Amazon. And if I have to go between these different devices, it makes it harder for me as an audience member to watch it. So how do you make money back on your $2.45 billion when you're seeing audience members start getting a little bit frustrated? That's where
Yeah,
connection point come in. That's where monetization comes in. That's where creating that social sort of connectivity points and making it personalized to me. I want my when I'm watching something on screen, I want them to know that I'm a Warriors fan. I'm from the Bay, regardless of where I am. I'm going to be supporting my team, and that's going to be a pretty consistent thing. When I'm watching versus when my co-founder from Phoenix is watching, we should be seeing different things, regardless of that. If we're on our on two different devices, he wants to see Devin Booker. I want to see Steph Curry. That should be something that is automatically there. You shouldn't show us the same things.
got it. So let's dive into that a little bit more though, because I feel like that's a good point to hone in on. So with subscription video on demand, platforms, they live and die by retention, right? And what you're talking about is more personalization in terms of video and stuff like that. To me, that sounds like you're adding a little bit more engagement. And correct me if I'm wrong, that also means that you're trying to reduce churn. Is that kind of like the pitch when it comes to these streaming platforms?
I think yes and no. I think churn is a part and parcel of creating an interesting environment. I think what Disney just announced this morning in creating their D2C sort of environment for their ESPN app, and then including shorts and highlights and those sort of things into a sports app, highlights really run like the entire sporting world. Adam Silver said it the other day. Highlights are what runs the NBA. And if you have your NBA commissioner saying that, you better lean into it as a media company. You can't lean and just say, "Oh, we're going to do these sort of things that have worked for the past 50 years and then expect it to work for the next 50 years." You're seeing a generational divide. You're seeing Gen Z individuals see their NBA highlights on TikTok, on Meta, or if they're watching a full game, they're doing it on Twitch with their favorite influencers and their favorite sort of pizzazz to it. It's not really what you're
Yeah.
seeing from the tried and true. Like, we all love Mike Breen. We all want to hear a crazy bang when Steph Curry hits a game-winning three, but
Yeah.
it's just not moving as much as any specific individual on Twitch at this point.
And then when it relates to fast channels, they're monetizing old libraries where like CPMs are pretty low. Do you see Ditto as a way to get new dollars out of long tail content, or do you think shoppability makes sense in a more of a premium fresh programming, like a subscription video on demand?
I think it's all of the above, and I think it's especially when it comes to sitcoms that you see on these CTV devices. Seinfeld, for example, has come back into vogue. Like, you're seeing the Seinfeld actors be on the front page of Kith at this point. So
Yeah.
if that sort of stuff is coming back into fashion, and you're seeing that continue to move, kind of just how people want to dress, you should monetize that. If the entire thing is you're going online right now saying, "How can I dress like Jerry Seinfeld?" Why not do that shopping from Seinfeld? Why can't we use our computer vision to say, "Cool, you like this style? Here are great items that are in season right now that you can purchase that give you the lookbook of what you see on screen." You're already seeing the show. You're seeing those sort of capabilities. Why doesn't the technology meet you exactly where the inspiration point is? Why do you have to go and do so much more work to get what you?
Yeah, that makes sense. And as a lawyer, I'm always thinking about suits. So I feel like that was also might not be the best example, but something to think about. So going a little bit deeper, we're in the middle of streaming wars right now. I think that is settling with Netflix and Disney. Do you see them like kind of, well, my narrative is that I see them as dominating, while others are still trying to compete and catch up. Do you buy that narrative as well? Do you think that streaming has consolidated into a couple of players, or is it a space for new players to emerge?
Consolidated for sure. I think that the definition of streaming has changed in that sort of regard. I think that when you're
Also,
talking about these, I think when you talk about streaming, you're really just talking about video content and being able to connect to audiences. I think that
mm,
when you're talking about long form streaming, yes, obviously you have your Netflixes, you have your Disneys. I think increasingly so, you're seeing what Warner Brother is doing. You're seeing what Comcast is doing. I think you're seeing a lot of really great things there. I think, especially on the Comcast side, how much that they own in sports. Sports rights are really what's going to drive a lot of these different retention devices. I think that is why people are spending so much money on sports. Like, it's going to be really hard to truly say, yeah, I can make $2.45 billion a year back, but that's not the point. The point is we have the only place that you can watch these specific sports. If you want to watch the Olympics for the next couple 16 years, you're doing that on NBC. Everyone watches the Olympics. You're going to pay the money to be on Peacock for that. That's the reason that you do it. It's not necessarily, I know exactly that this ROI makes this much sense for me because I can do a dollar to dollar comparison, but it's the fact that I'm the only one who can do it. You can have that be a cost leader if that pulls everyone into the door. And now people are Peacock subscribers, and that increases how many people are on your streaming platform, and then you increase retention from there. It's a great strategy. And so I think that Comcast is doing an incredible job because sports is a finite resource as compared to anything else. And I think that as you're able to really put a stronghold around that, and I think Disney and Comcast are truly the leaders in that thing. I think that's why you're seeing Netflix. Like, obviously, Netflix is Netflix. They're going to always lead, but I think that wet lead in terms of streaming and being the first individual in the streaming space. But there's also a reason that they're going so heavy into live sports now. Sports is going to be the differentiation factor that also keeps you away from these these other video platforms. I think there's a lot of really great space for video platforms, just not necessarily in the long form content space. But I think the short form content space is equally, if not more important. We're seeing that entire war with TikTok right now, but whatever happens to TikTok with their US acquisition, could leave the door open for more TikToks or more specific TikToks. Like, let's say there's a sports specific TikTok, which is kind of what Disney's trying to do with their ESPN app, which I think has a lot of legs. I think sort of creating that differentiation and personalization and specificity within all these sort of things is increasingly important and really, really interesting. And the consumer wins at the end of it.
Yeah, and you're touching on it. You touched on TikTok, and there's also like Instagram Shop, Facebook Marketplace. Some say that's where consumer dollars are heading. How do you see that landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think that landscape's all interesting. I think the consumer dollars are heading there, but I think the consumer dollars are also staying where they are. Like, you're still going to be paying for your devices, or you're still going to be paying for your streaming platforms because you still need to see when it first comes out. As much as I hate it, I think there is some sort of strategy between, like, behind releasing something once a week, having that sort of factor where you can watch things in person and create sort of an environment around it. HBO's done a great job with that with like White Lotus and with
Mm,
shows like that. Once a week, this is happening, and people are creating a kind of community event around it where come over on Thursday night and we'll see this entire show and order Thai food for that last season. Like, that was a cool sort of environment that was created from that. I don't think that sort of stuff changes because it's a social event. You're seeing that with the Bachelor, you're seeing it with shows like that as well. So I think all of that is going to continue to be interesting. I just think that, like, the advertising world has to change. The advertisers of old, they're the ones in trouble, not necessarily the streaming companies, but you can't advertise like you normally do. You have to advertise in a way that is personalized, that makes sense for individuals, and you're seeing companies do that right now. You're seeing massive companies that work with Comcast and work with other players that are truly personalized and are able to take advantage of open spots, whether it's live or whether it's like video on demand.
got it. Got it. I guess you're touching on White Lotus, for example, right? It sounds like a lot of people just want to engage more, so find more ways of engaging with that content. With that being said, do you kind of see that as proof that Ditto would be great, or for lack of a better term, or would you see social commerce as competitive with it?
No, not at all. I mean, social commerce is what Ditto wants to power. We want to be the underlying technology that makes social commerce a capability and something that is as easy to do as possible. I mean, we loved exactly what like Whatnot and PopShop and all these companies in the past did for the first iteration of social commerce, but it highlighted what went wrong. Like,
Mhm.
Whatnot's still killing it, but PopShop not so much. And Instagram Shop shut down, and like TikTok Shop is killing it as well, but there are major holes there. And a major hole is that everyone wants to be Amazon. Everyone wants to own the order management system. And no matter who you are, if you go up to Walmart and say, move your order management system, that's the quickest no of all time. You have to work within the environment that is being created. And if we can create the plumbing that goes from a Walmart order management system to everyone else, and from a Instagram shopping backend system to everyone else, we become what Stripe was. We want to create that sort of environment where any retailer can match with any media player, whether that's social media, whether that's video on demand, whether that's like written and like magazine media, any sort of media content. We want to be the underlying technology that powers it.
Thank you for listening. Today's episode is brought to you by Founders Forum. At Founders Forum, we work with startup founders who want more than their transactional legal help. We're your partners from formation to funding, board seats to exits, helping you build faster and stay protected the whole way. If you're raising, restructuring, or just need clarity on your legal next steps, use this link in the description to book a call. I'd love to hear what you're building. Got it. Got it. So, shifting gears a little bit into like media and AI, they're colliding in strange new ways, from AI generated video feeds to autonomous agents to even interactive experiences. So what's real? What's hype? I mean, like,
Yeah, what's real and what's hype is it's a very interesting point right now. I mean, I think we all saw what Meta did the other day with their entire like vibe sort of media environment. That was quite interesting. I don't necessarily know how many like I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't think that I've seen too many people who are big fans of it. I think that I respect someone putting it out there, and I respect someone building something that they think has legs to it. I don't necessarily think that that is the way to do it. I think
Mm,
that people at the end of the day are seeing that real human made content and human connectivity is always going to be important. I think that we're getting a little bit too in the weeds of like agentic this or AI that or anything like that. Building for humans is what it's always been about. Having a human sort of connection and allowing a human to do what they want to do is the whole point of AI. Replacing a human in the loop of especially entertainment, what are you doing? Like you're not
yeah.
creating something for a human if you're doing that entire thing. Who are you building for? And so I think building in a bubble is the biggest problem because of the fact that it's hard to realize that you're not really building something that people want. You're building something that VCs want. And if the entire VC environment is in a specific bubble as well, it's easy to get caught up in hype cycles in that sort of regard where you're building something that a VC wants that is backed by that VC's connection or whatever. And it just becomes a feedback cycle on that as opposed to what an individual wants and what an individual is going to actually connect to. And I think that is where we're seeing a lot of issues.
Yeah, it's interesting. I came across an article the other day about AI influencers, and by that I mean there's I think it's an Instagram account, Lil Michaela or something like that, where it has like thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of followers. But I mean, it does generate the content, but I'm wondering where's the actual audience? Like, where's that community aspect of it, right? And it sounds like you're hitting on that point, which is you can definitely generate the content, create that self-feeding loop, and there are certainly audience who are going to be looking for that, but there's no strong sense of community, right? I don't know if that makes sense or if you would agree with that, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
totally. I mean, I think that it comes down to the fact that like AI influencers, there will be something at some point. I think that that happens. I don't necessarily know if that's the best, but that's neither here nor there. Technology is going to do what technology is going to do. And if you can create a very low pay like a low paid sort of replacement to an influencer, a brand is going to take that if they can figure out like that entire uncanny valley thing, which is a huge thing. People don't necessarily like the majority of AI influencers for a reason. We've seen that for how many iterations? We saw that in the entire crypto boom as well. We saw that there were like metaverse devices for specific generations of stuff. If it's not like exceedingly real, if I can't connect to this in some way, what are like again, what are we building? Who are we
yeah.
building it for?
But then
Why are we building?
with that being said, though, like if we're generating this AI content, does that mean that Ditto has like this new opportunity where it can tackle like embedding commerce within AI content itself?
For sure. I mean, I think that's kind of what we've always had our heads on about is that we want to be as modular as possible. We want to work with as many media companies as possible. We kind of took things backwards when it comes to a startup working with companies like Comcast as are like going after them first as opposed to building for startups and working our way up to enterprise. But I think that's kind of what we've always envisioned from the beginning is we want to own the media space. If you are making a monetizable video asset, regardless of if it's made by humans or made by video, it's built on top of data to be monetized. And so I think that the answer is yes, that video and AI generated media content can easily be incorporated within the Ditto ecosystem. But like the conversation comes back to the point is does that connect to the audience and does that drive the emotionality aspect of it? Are you going to have that same emotion if it's AI generated as opposed to like seeing your favorite actor or seeing your favorite individual go through and see what it actually looks like in real life or like human movement?
Yeah. And you touched on, AI agents, right? That's all the hype right now. Do agents, specifically like shopping AI agents, kind of make you guys obsolete or does it catalyze you?
No, I mean we have like I think that's kind of where we have to cross like a differentiate or like a sort of caveat to how like I'm describing things. I'm not talking about agentic flows not having a use. I'm talking about agentic flows between a bunch of AIs being like, why are we doing this? When there's no human in the loop, that's where it's like, but why? Like, what
Yeah.
is? what is the end goal here? And an agentic experience when there is a human in the loop to make a like very obscure process a lot easier. Like Visa's agentic commerce that they announced earlier, that is exceptionally cool. Um, that's stuff that actually makes sense. If you're able to make a travel agent, and like book an entire sort of flow within a 30 minutes capability with still me being the decision maker and choosing all that sort of stuff, that makes complete sense. If I have some agent that's deciding what I want to do at some point because it knows me well and all that sort of stuff, sure, that is going to make money and that is a vision of the future that it could happen.
Mhm.
How different is that than, like, watching Wall-E at though? Like, is that the life that we wanna live? Is that the world we want to live in? Is that really what we wanna do? Sure, money is going to be there, and sure, a lot of these companies that are building technologies that are really cool technology at the end of the day, that doesn't that it being cool technology and should it exist can be mutually, exclusive. I think that's one of the biggest differentiators there.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And now I want to shift out a little bit more into AI specifically as the industry. Zooming out, like valuations of AI are exploding. Some call it innovation, others are calling it a bubble. Let's talk about the state of the market. I mean, like OpenAI is now rumored to be worth north of $500 billion. Public markets, Nvidia's dominating AI infrastructure. Uh, Lovable, Cohere. These companies also utilizing AI agents, they're jumping valuations dramatically within a few months. Some people even call it like a circular deal theory right now, which is, you have one company, say like OpenAI, investing into Oracle, and then, just going about with the same players in the space. I say all that to mean, like, do you think we're in an AI bubble right now?
Yes, I think that there's always gonna be conversations of that, and I think that when we talk about what revenue and, like, what are revenue multiples when we're talking about this, Oracle's revenue, but our revenue multiple right now is insane, and that's a public company that you can see years of public data for. That revenue multiple is crazy. Yes, there is the fact that like Ellison is exceptionally connected in the government. And at this point and where we are politically, yes, that is a huge moat. And sure, that is something that we can start pricing in. And if that is what commands large multiples, so be it. That's not something that I don't think anyone in finance has ever priced in before. And so we can make up numbers for government connectivity. Sure, that being said, a lot of AI companies don't have those sort of moats. A lot of AI companies are raising at a pretty obscene sort of valuation where at the end of the day, you're looking at it and you're saying, what is an exit here? The exit in the public markets, especially when you're looking at public markets that aren't supporting as massive of valuations as we've seen. Klarna IPO'd and they IPO'd for half what they were valued at. And if you're seeing that from companies who have been tried and true, how are you saying that some of these companies are worth more than Stripe? Companies that haven't gone public yet, but have run a trillion of like commerce and a trillion of dollars through their servers because of the actual like commerce that they're running. No, that does not track in my mind. And when you're talking about that compared to their revenue, and then when you're talking about that compared to like people joining them at a late stage environment, if you're looking at a company worth $100 billion, what is that exit? How are you having multiple $100 billion companies exit at some sort of valuation that makes sense for them when their revenue doesn't show that they have the capability to do that? Sure, you can keep raising at a high valuation, and sure, if you keep doing secondaries, you can get out before you do it. But that's the entire point of a bubble. If you can get out before you're like, as long as you're not the one holding the bag, bubbles are great.
Yeah. Well, do you want to push back on this idea? Like, basically, everybody's saying, these frothy valuations that are coming about right now, it's because of the promise of like growth, future growth, and just we haven't seen this kind of movement, or I would say this ability to scale. Probably similar claim that was in the dot-com era, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the sort of justification for any bubble. We saw that literally a couple years ago with crypto. So like that's a very tried and true and great sort of confrontation against it, and that's always going to be true for your breakout companies. When you have your breakout companies pay top dollar for them, good. But at the end of the day, like how many Googles are there? Like there are one or two. If every single massive AI company is able to do this, you only have so many purchases like Meta's Scale AI purchase. Once Meta's already done that, they're not repeating that. How many companies like Meta are going to be able to do that? Second of all, when we saw what Google did with Windsurf, the entire flack for doing basically the same thing Meta did. No big tech companies paying that sort of money for any of these AI companies after that, unless it's like completely vetted and it's a full acquisition. If that door is closed, where is the exit for a lot of those companies that are competing in that entire space? That's a hard thing to be in when like pre that, great. Post that, where is your exit? Because the IPO market for a company that's especially when you're talking about companies built on top of a ChatGPT or an OpenAI or anything like that, if you're selling $1 worth of credit for 80 cents, yeah, your growth is going to be insane. I would love to buy $1 for 80 cents. I would do that 10 times over, and anyone's going to do that 10 times over, which is why you're seeing insane growth. Obviously, model costs are going to go down, but that's now the race of can I get to monetization and a profitable company as these models are going down and as VC money is continuing to back into what I do. It's a race, and we've seen that pay off for multiple companies. Like Uber did this, and they IPO'd, and so there is the possibility of like a couple companies being able to make something of it and do something really really cool. There is also a lot of possibility that a lot of LP dollars are getting lit on fire.
That makes me scared for my investments. But with that being said, how do you convince investors that like Ditto and other companies are not riding that same sort of misallocation wave?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, as much as we have AI into our ecosystem, it's not our story. I think our story is always going to be focused on monetizing culture. We're pretty one track minded on that. Like we know what we want to do. We want to be the Stripe for this next generation of commerce. I think that we've seen incredible companies get built. Stripe, in my mind, is an absolutely incredible company that is still staying on top of everything. They're powering ChatGPT's commerce engine right now, and that's exceptionally cool. And that's going to drive and generate a lot of value. I think you're also seeing ChatGPT go into commerce because that's real money. You being able to do that sort of stuff is actually going to drive revenue for companies that are worth a ton of money that you need to back into that sort of revenue for. So, yeah, I mean, I think when we look at the spaces, we're solving a real problem. And I think that the problems existed for so long that someone is going to solve it, and being able to create that sort of layer of monetization for where commerce is going is really cool for us. And I think also just keeping a mind on the fact that like we want to do right by ourselves and our employees and our investors. And that also keeps in mind that like an exit, whether that is an IPO or whether that is an acquisition or whatever an exit looks like, makes everyone money. And doing that in a way, like if we raise at a valuation that we can't grow into or doesn't make sense for us, and then we get acquired for what we're worth, someone's getting screwed.
Yeah. Well, Rishi, let's close with some quick fire short questions and sharp answers. So, what is the most overhyped AI category in 2025?
That's a big one. I mean, these are not
Say
short
it.
fire questions, and that's
Yeah, but you gotta say it. Quick answer, no explanation.
coding devices, like coding agents and coding help.
I
I
gotta
think
take a
that's a
pause right there.
very it's a hard bucket to win right now, and I think that like continuing to back other individuals that monetization doesn't make as much sense as they used to in the past. It's a hard place to be.
Yep. Just announced today, Sonnet 4.5 came out. Pretty damn cool. 30 hours of independent coding. So I agree with that statement. Most underrated AI category that will quietly mint winners.
Anything focused on not the like on not devices. I think that when we're talking about how AI is able to upcharge a lot of like private equity backed companies right now, like private equity is going crazy in mom and pop stores. Like there is a huge wealth transfer of what we're seeing. And so if you're able to optimize a lot of these older businesses, that's a money making machine. I think the underhyped AI category is also going to be the category of individuals that don't need VC investment. I think you can make a very great business for yourself that you don't need to build a rocket ship. You can just build a really, really cool car.
And last question, contrarian prediction about AI and media in the next 24 months.
I completely against AI in that like AI generated media in that sense. I think that media is an art form at the end of the day, and we haven't seen AI generated art like as much as AI generated art has been cool. AI generated anything in the arts is such a human and emotional journey that AI generated creativity just will not give you that connection, even if it is better than what we're seeing from a human. It doesn't derive emotion the same way.
Awesome. Well, Rishi, thanks for going deep on both Ditto and the wider AI and media landscape. Where can listeners follow you and try Ditto?
Yeah, I mean, we're on shopdiddo.com, and then pretty soon we'll be on a couple of your favorite Comcast devices.
Spoiler alert. We'll link everything in the show notes. Thank you guys.
Have a good one.